Okay, let's do a roll call. First of all, you need to bring the meeting to order. Sorry about that. Call the meeting to order for the North Summit Fire District monthly meeting. Our regular meeting held on April 10th at 6 p.m. year 2025. Let's do a roll call.
Louise Willoughby here.
Corey Blomquist.
That you are
Arianides here.
Don Donaldson here. Thank you. All right, closed session. Are we going to go into closed session today? All right, so let's do a pledge of allegiance.
What's that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. All right, Chief, you're first up.
You're gonna go over some stuff. Yeah, those.
Yeah, so the month of March, we had 41 calls, which is on average for the past 4 years. So nothing too significant change there. Things are going well on an operational level, both EMS and fire this time. I was going to touch real quick on training update. We give every month the amount of hours that were logged last month for training. Was 188 hours of training that was logged last month. And this month, Chief and I both this week just completed 2 separate courses that were FEMA-led incident command courses. Chief did a
Planning section chief, which is a little bit higher end one, so.
and then I did an incident command ICS 300 class. And then if you guys noticed in the trailer or in the parking lot out there, there's a trailer that was brought up by the Utah Fire Rescue Academy. And crews have been doing hands-on forcible entry training. So forcing their ways into doors, cutting garage doors, different things like that. And that's all paid for and brought in by, like I said, the Utah Fire Rescue Academy, where they bring instructors up and go through and guys get a lot of hands-on cutting with saws and things like that. So it's been really beneficial for them.
Do they do a battering ram?
No,
No.
yeah, we use a little different tools. Same concept, just different tools.
Okay.
But yep.
We're a lot more technical than that.
I just wondered if they still did that. I want to see it.
Officers do, like SWAT teams and stuff.
Oh, do they? Okay.
And then for the apparatus update, the only thing of note on the apparatus is our water tender that's here in Colville. The white Freightliner style water tender is just having some maintenance done. It had an exhaust leak that we were aware of, that we were just kind of watching because it wasn't anything that impacted the drivability of it or anything like that. And the Park City mechanic, who we work quite a bit with, Park City fire mechanic that helps us out. He had some opening this week to get it into his shop. And so he's tore into that and is giving that a nice good tune up, and should be back first part of next week and up and going. And the rest of our apparatus, knock on wood, are in service and no issues right now. So.
And it wasn't needed when all the rest of them went out yesterday?
Nope.
Yesterday? No, the day before. Day before, yeah.
The only thing I wanted to touch on, just a couple things to add to that. So to kind of give you guys some background, every time we have a truck go down or something, we used to have to send it down to Siddons Martin. Park City Fire District, they have that building over there by, what is that? Summit, it's not Summit Park, it's on there. Yeah, the sewer district building. It's kind of right there. It's their repair building, and what they've done is they've hired 2 more techs to help out their main mechanic, their head mechanic, JR. And it costs us a lot of money when we have to ship something down to Salt Lake City or something to have them do specialty work. Well, JR can now handle a lot of our fleet. So the goal is trying to get the Wasatch fire chiefs to kind of field something back here so we don't have to constantly go down there. So we'll have a safe cost savings.
Good idea.
And they're working with us really well, but for the first, all last year, it was just one individual and he couldn't handle it all. So it's good that it's actually going to help us out, even though it's going to also help them out. it's gonna help everybody out in the Wasatch back instead of having to send everything down to the valley. So we're excited about that. On the stats, I couldn't get my agenda pulled up a second ago. I just wanted to point out really quick. If you look at that pie chart, there is no flooding. So we did go up, Tollgate, I was kind of mentioning this already a second ago. I think this year we're looking pretty good. We had a LEPC meeting, I think 2 weeks ago now. Talked about weather and the outlooks, and I just kind of want to give you guys a briefing a little bit. The wildland season looks like it might be a big wildland season throughout the United States, especially in Utah. So for Utah, they're projecting the monsoon probably from about July to August to be pretty heavy. For us, that means a lot of chasing lightning strikes and different things like that. Trees in the middle of nowhere burning. We have to go hike into them and put them out, etc. So that was kind of an update from the LEPC. Also, they're trying to do, we have tier 2 reporting. Every time there's like a facility or a pipe or anything like that, we get a lot of tier 2 reporting. The dams give us tier 2 reporting. LEPC is going to collect all this data. They got a new software. I can't remember the name of it. But Catherine McMullen, our emergency manager for the county, she's going to handle it. So we're going to start giving all of our data to them because our district is the largest out of the county fire districts. And we have the most risk. We have a lot of I-80, a lot of I-84. We got the dams, reservoirs. We have a good chunk of the rail coming down out of Evanston, Echo Canyon. So we just have a lot of target hazards is what we call them in our industry, right? So I just wanted to touch on those two things really quick and then just kind of point out, like Nick kind of glanced over, our numbers are pretty much on par. We had a big February, but March is pretty much on par, but we'll see how the rest of the year goes. So like I said, in the last few meetings, I just think people are starting to recognize that we're getting a lot of accolades. Just to give you guys an update.
Hey,
A
good.
lot of people coming in and saying that, I think once you get an ambulance or you use the system, people recognize it finally and they realize what value it is. But until that's applicable to you, and it's tragic a lot of times, right? But then you see the value in it and then you can kind of get out there and share what that value is. But until it applies to you directly, sometimes it's just kind of, you overlook it, right? So I think some of the calls on that are really good, some prominent people, and I think that people are catching on. So I think it's a good turn of the minutes. So.
Just had to have patience, huh?
I think so. I mean, we're into it 3 years now as of March. And it took a while and we're still gonna staff the Hennifer station. That has taken 3 years to be able to get to this point. So now that the trailer's gonna go in, we'll move over once that trailer's in place. And then we'll staff that with 2. So that'll be in the next few months, depending on that trailer. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then did you want to touch on that at all? See where that's at?
Will you remind me what LEPC is before we go on? Cause
Yeah,
I
it's
just,
your,
I just am trying to make sense of,
thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're welcome. I
that's,
forget about the acronyms.
I just had to attach it to something.
We, in these 2 classes that we were in this week, there's tons of acronyms. I can't keep it straight anymore, at least this week. But those were really good classes. So a planning section chief is, when you talk NIMS, if you know what NIMS is, or ICS, ICS is a component of the National Incident Management System. The section planning chief has the biggest job out of all of them. Just because they have a little bit of operations they have to deal with. And so everybody's going to them to keep everything straight. So for example, that Vicker Hill fire last year that we had turned into a type 3 incident, which is about middle of the road. We go from 1 to 5 usually. 3 is a pretty large event, multi-day event. So a type 3 team gets called in if we have to delegate the fire. And then that incident management team comes in and takes over. So that's the classes that we're getting ready to be able to handle here for our own. So, but it helps us kind of understand how everything is interrelated to each other. So, and then what we do what's called task books. So those will be opened. So we'll try and farm ourselves out a little bit to different events because we have to get experience to fill those in. And then we'll become a certified planning section chief or whatever you're doing. And then once you have that, then if we get farmed out to any other event in the county, then that incident pays for us. Does that make sense? So then the district doesn't pay for us. We're offset slightly by the incident. So we can help manage our costs to the district a little bit better. So there's some pros and cons, definitely. But I think we're getting to the point where we can handle some of these things. So it's a good thing. That's all we have for statistics.
Okay, well, nice report. I specifically like that your report on the training. That was nice. I like the fact that you're doing it and now you're recording that and so forth. You were recording it before, but actually presenting it, that's really good. I think that's a good move for all of us to understand what's happening. The other question I had was, and I may be wrong on this, so it's my memory, and so, but you had the time per calls, right? To get the call is it was a chart at the end of the year for time on that. And I thought we were going to do that quarterly so that we were measuring ourselves throughout the year.
Yeah.
And I think that would be wise to do just so we see where we're at with that. Because it's really the public, particularly now that we're trying to move the people that, get the FTEs down in Hennifer and show them what that means. I think it's really important for the district to understand that, we're trying to get those times down for you and, really respond to really serious emergencies and hazardous as quickly as we can. And that's what we told the public we would do.
Yeah.
And I think if we can show them that, we don't need to do it every month, but quarterly would be
Yeah.
really, I think, a good thing to do.
We'll have that next month for you.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I agree. All that data really helps
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and it'd be nice
Data
to
and real life experiences that we don't want to have.
see it throughout the year versus just at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
So then one thing with all the statistics, come January 1, we're switching to a new software, and this isn't us personally, this is nationwide. We're switching us to a new software, because I have a ton more reports we can do. Plus, I love this, it'll have real-time geo-based reporting as well, so we can look at any time and see where all of our calls are happening on a map and what types they are and that, so.
Great.
It's called NERIS is what the state will be switching over to, NERIS. They're going away from Innistrend, what they call it, light, didn't they? And INFERS rather, and then they're going to NERIS. So it's a whole statewide system it's gonna be kind of a learning curve, I feel like, for everybody throughout the state, but yeah, we're excited about it.
Wonderful. Board
I have-
members.
I do have one question. So with Park City Fire District doing that work and we're paying them, does that require an interlocal agreement with them that goes beyond what we're doing to trade time for the service on the trucks?
That's a question I can ask, Ryan Stack, our attorney. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't remember his name, but I can ask Ryan about that. We have the interlocal as needed anyways, but it's a good question regarding the time and maintenance.
If I remember correctly, it doesn't include anything. It doesn't touch on maintenance at all. It's
No,
just,
it's a response, but, they're providing I don't know. That's a good question, Marty.
yeah, just find out. And then and I'll ask you this from an administrative standpoint. I know sometimes providing reports to the board every meeting is easier than doing it quarterly because in your head, I mean, I agree with Don on the time reports. Is it easier for you just to do that every meeting and have it on the list, or is it easier to do it quarterly? Because we don't want to make it harder on you.
Honestly, pulling the report, just remembering to do it, but if we add it to this monthly one, we can do that and then just touch on it briefly. But yeah, either way is fine by us. We're not particular one way or another.
It comes down to however you guys like to see it.
Yeah, because we can pull that report fairly easy, but out of Innistrend, the program we use for tracking, pretty easily. So however you guys want to see it's fine by us.
I really like Ari's idea. If it's not a big issue for you to do it monthly, and I think it's a good thing. It's a record of it, so we can pass that on to the public. They can see that. And, go to this meeting here, you'll see it. This is what we told you we're going to do. I mean, that was amazing what you did at the end of the year and show them what time frame we have cut off on the responses, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really good thing to express and let everybody in the community know.
Yeah, for sure. We can totally do that. Yeah, we'll do it monthly, Ari.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, board members, anything else you'd like to respond to the chief's report?
No, I interrupted. You were going to have, you say something.
Oh, I was just gonna touch base on the office building that you guys approved, last board meeting. Just a quick update on that. It's beginning the process of going down the line and manufacturing and, Trent, the representative from Mountain West Modular, he's planning to come out is it next week? You see that email this week? It's either next week or the following week. I'm just gonna come out, look at the site and kind of go over some details with us and stuff like that. But he was still thinking that it should be on track within that timeframe that we set for the contract. So it shouldn't be delayed or anything like that.
Good.
And Louise, you had a question about Colville City?
Yeah, is everything okay there?
Everything's good. There was some confusion. They thought maybe we were gonna actually change to a building instead of a trailer.
Modular, okay.
So that was the confusion. We
Okay.
clarified that. So they just said.
So we're good.
Permitted, we're good.
Okay.
Yep. So they are aware of everything and we were right on track with everything. Oh, and they were right after you guys approved that last time, didn't we pay a quarter of the?
Yeah.
Upfront cost was about a quarter of that amount. So they got paid, they started everything, it held our place in line, so we're looking good. We're excited.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's go into this discussion about Social Security.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. And I kind of want to give a little bit of background. I put in your staff report, it's kind of a short version of it, but to give the public kind of the long version of it, I think it was last year. There was a lot of confusion about our name, North Summit Fire District. Technically, and then Chief Rouser he can correct me if I'm wrong here, because there's been so many names that have gone through the district over the years. Our alias is North Summit Fire District. Our official name, I believe, is North Summit Fire Service District with a service in there. That's what we're recognized as of what year was it? It was
1970 something. They changed it to North Summit Fire Protection Special Service District.
Right.
Ryan insists that in 2010, the county changed it again, but there was never any completion of that with the Lieutenant Governor's office, so.
And
He says that's the official name. He's the attorney.
Tyler, when he dug deep into that and he got the response directly from the state, what was it, last Friday or 2 Fridays ago?
I can't remember.
About 2 Fridays ago. So now we know the official name and an alias. We are going to continue to call it North Summit Fire District just to simplify it as an alias. But the official name, just so you all know, is NSFSD with the service in there. Now, the reason that all came up is as we started digging into this, we started questioning everything. So as we started the full-time employees, we found out through the state that we actually have been paying in error Social Security to our full-time employees. With that being said, to kind of give you a little background, as they started digging into it, the state Social Security Administration, we've been working with, her name is Becky. Oh, and Becky's online. And Becky, I was hoping that maybe you can kind of maybe explain to our board how you found what you found.
Okay, yeah, this is a really niche situation. So I think that typically Americans think that everybody pays into Social Security. But when it was implemented, there was a legal question as to whether the federal government could require Social Security taxes be paid by local and state government employees. So they did not. They were not part of the initial Social Security Act. In the, I think, 1950s, they made an amendment so that state and local government employees who do not have a retirement system, they pay into Social Security. And then on top of that, there is an opportunity for state and local government employees who pay into a retirement system to also opt in to Social Security. And there are a lot of entities who've already done that. I'm a state of Utah employee. The state of Utah, for all its employees, has opted into it. So we're paying Social Security taxes. But because it's such a strange thing, I think most of us don't really think about it. So at this point, since we've been paying in error all this time, we've concluded that a referendum needs to take place. So this will give the folks who are eligible, so this is employees who participate in a retirement system, right? They will get to vote to say, yes, we want to opt into Social Security, or no, we don't want to be paying into that anymore. And then once that vote is finished, that will help determine what path we take next. So if they say yes, then all of the credits that the Social Security credits that folks have been paying into, they're all going to count. They get accrued, and it will continue on forevermore. There can never, you can't just say, okay, now we're tired of it, we want to opt back out. That's not a possibility. So if they vote yes, and it's the majority, more than 50% vote yes, then we're locked in for good.
Can I, a couple points of clarification, Becky, is that okay?
Yeah, you bet.
So, generally, when a special service district is created, you can opt in or opt out with it. Correct me if I'm wrong, is it a 218 form or process?
Yes, so it's an agreement or like an amendment to the Social Security, Act.
Once that is followed, and let's say you have opted in officially and you're paying, you can never change that to the existence of the district. That never happened. That was the error. Apparently, it just got dropped. Like when I got here, there was no documentation of many things at all, if anything at all. So we've been just kind of trying to fix problems as we find them, and this is one of them. So Becky's really done a great job in helping us. The other thing is this is only applicable for our full-time employees. They're the applicable group that I want you guys to understand. That's who we're talking about. And Utah, as Becky's explained it to me, is an all-in or all-out state, basically. It's whoever votes 51% if you want to opt in, or 51% if you opt out, has to be all or nothing. There is no, whereas some other states you can pick and choose if you want to be in or out of have a second retirement system in the Social Security or not. But in Utah, you can't. So if they opt out, all the full-time employees the whole district for the existence will be out of Social Security. And then by, the reverse, if they opt in. As the administration, we're not going to push one way or another. We're going to leave it to the employees and the process to work itself out. And Becky is going to be the one pushing it. Anything I missed there?
No, and I'm with you. I'm not biased one way or the other. We just want to relay the information. My colleagues stiffen a little bit at the term opt out because you're legally sort of not allowed to participate. But so opt in, we're happy with, but not the other one. And then just want to say one last thing, which is that if the vote is a no this time, you could vote again 1 year after this vote. So the no is not the full stop like the yes is. Once a yes, that's permanent. You're in forevermore.
So I have a quick question. It's interesting. So who is responsible for executing the referendum?
That would be me. Yes. Yep.
That's you.
Yep.
So you are responsible for all of the documentation that takes place, getting people notified. So it's not the board or the chief, it's strictly you, the state.
Yeah, so we've actually begun some of this process already. We had to, by law, more than 90 days before the actual referendum or vote takes place, we have to post a notice of referendum. So that took place on Monday. I gave the document to the chief. They distributed it to all of the employees via email and posted it on bulletin boards there in the office as well.
Yes, Becky, we did that. And then also I have a timeline down that Becky and I gave you a diagram of it. We've already gone through March 26th all the way through the notice of the referendum posted. They not only had it posted at each one of the stations, but they also got an email notifying them in their district emails. So that is all taken care of. There is no action for you guys to take tonight because this is a state level, federal level type thing. So this is mostly information saying, hey, we will be doing this process because we're legally obligated to, and we found something in error for such a long time that we'll be able to just go through this process correctly. So to answer your question, yes, she will mostly handle it and we'll help facilitate it a little bit.
There will be one action next meeting to adopt.
May 8th.
To authorize going to referendum.
So basically your vote, we're hoping for next month after this educational work session, you guys will vote for the resolution to hold the referendum.
Okay. So are there, with that, I guess we can't pick on whether side, we don't want to, it's an open discussion, right?
Yep.
But is there ramifications, I'm calling it ramifications, by one way or the other, that we need to be aware of, that may hit our budget, that may hit some sort of thing that we haven't planned for the year?
So
Yeah, that's a
if,
great question.
if we don't have, if this is I know you said don't use opt-out, that's really probably not, but if we do that, we can actually go for a refund of social security we paid in.
So for example, Don, in a year time frame,
Uh-huh.
we ran the number and the district will see an increase in revenue of just over $100,000. So in short,
You might want to see a reduction of a expense rather than increase in revenue.
oh, thank you. You're correct. I appreciate your terminology. So basically that is reduced. So we right now pay 6.25 to the employee, their contribution. And
Yeah.
then we pay, the district also has to pay 6.25. So the employees will see a 6.25 increase on their side of things to them. And then the district will also see that reduction of liability.
How
So
far does
we'll
that
see.
go back? I mean, if they don't opt in,
About 3 years. You can
Okay.
go back about 3 years. If we were finished before April 15th, then we would have captured that year, but it's going to be after that.
So, and if I can add a little bit to that, Becky, for us particularly, talking about 3 years was 2022 roughly, the only employee you had then was me. So, and then the district, obviously. So the contribution will be quite small. But then in 2022, as we started building up staff for full-time, or 2020, what was it, 2024 rather? Three, then full-time 4. I can't remember exactly, but you'll see it kind of slightly increase the next year. So that's, don't forget, that's because we were volunteer and we kind of slowly built up into this full-time status. So it's not going to be huge for 2022, kind of middle of the road for 2023. 2024 will be the biggest year, and then we're caught up. So
I just want to throw out there as well, you don't have to seek a referendum, or sorry, not referendum, my bad. You don't have to seek a refund. If the vote is no, you can just leave it there, and the credits that those employees have earned thus far, those will stay on their Social Security record, right? So that will just sit there. But you can choose to pursue a refund if the referendum vote is no.
So the refund is a separate process than the referendum. And then I guess, Becky, help me out on this one. This kind of secondary process would be who's going to collect that money depending on which route the employees decide to go. Is it going to be the district, or are they going to have to go after that money on their own? Many districts have already gone through this process and they have decided to, and we can pick that when we get there, across this bridge, but they've decided that the district will collect it all and then disperse it. So that way the individuals won't miss out on anything. It's kind of a benefit to the employee, so to speak, for us to do it.
are you communicating that to the employees during the referendum process?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Ari. So in the next 90 days, we have plans with Becky to go through an education process with all of our employees. They're all going to meet with Social Security, URS, et cetera, through this whole process, so they know and are educated on their vote when it comes time. I think it's important to know a lot of fire districts and not departments, districts have opted out, or how do you say that? I don't know.
Said no.
They said no, I guess, to social.
Not opt
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, they said no. For example, just to name a few, all of our neighbors in the county are not in the Social Security system. Park City hasn't paid into Social Security for 20 or 30 years. South Summit is not part of, and I'm talking about fire districts, is not part of Social Security. Northview is not part of Social Security. Many fire districts are not. So Unified Fire, Ogden City, there's a lot of them that are not. So this is not new or, out of the realm of possibility. So.
This also includes Medicare, right?
No. Becky?
So Medicare is required for everybody and is not part of the referendum. They will still pay Medicare and receive Medicare credits, regardless of the referendum results.
Okay. And what I read about 218 said it's to provide Social Security and Medicare coverage.
Yeah. So they Good point. It depends on how far historically you want to go back. So there was a question about Medicare. I think in 1986 was when they said everybody's going to pay into Medicare. So if you had an employee who was employed before 1986 and continued employment with North Summit Fire Service District through that time, then we would have to look carefully at that employee as to whether or not they would have to pay into Medicare. It is my understanding that we don't have an employee in that situation.
So if you look at your timeline, just to kind of finish up the conversation, and then obviously you guys can have any questions you want. We are all the way through April 7th. The next big event would be the ACB to vote on May 8th, the next board meeting. After that, your vote, we would get the signed resolution over to the Social Security Agency, Becky, and then we will also send out, or they send out the test email to make sure that they got accurate for the referendum to hold. They'll test all the emails. And then July 8th, they'll prepare and distribute the ballots. And then July 15th, we'll hold the referendum, the vote will happen. And then because that's the beginning and the end of the pay period. So the 15th would be, am I correct on that? 15th?
So payroll is due the 16th, so as soon as I know on
So once we know,
Wednesday morning, I'll have to tell the payroll company to either turn off. So
either say no, or like stop paying basically Social Security, or just continue. So depending on what the referendum results show. So that is kind of before you can take a look at that. So you have it all month if you'd like. But that's what you would be voting on next month, is just to hold the referendum for the employees. So, anything that we're missing, Becky, to your point?
I just want to clarify one tiny detail, and that is that the week before I will prepare the ballots, but they will not be distributed until day of the vote. And it's going to be one of those where it's automatically set to go at like 12:01 a.m. and finish at 11:59 p.m., right? So they have just that day. If the employee does not vote, it defaults to a no for that individual. So we want to encourage everybody to log on to their email and vote that day.
I guess I have a quick question about the May 8th, our vote. Do we get educated on this? I mean, I hate to vote for something that's really important with just show up and vote, you know? I mean,
You know, it's a good question. Becky, do you have anything that can help educate a board on what this referendum maybe represents or means to them?
Yeah, so yeah, one of the it's clearly defined by statute. So we just have like these criteria that we have to follow. And one of the pieces is that they receive executive approval to hold the referendum. So because of that step, that's why we're coming to the board to say, do you allow this referendum to take place? We have not experienced one where a board says no, in my personal experience. So I've not, I don't know what would happen if that occurred, because, you know, we are paying an error right now. So some decision needs to be made for moving forward in the correct manner.
So where's the money been going?
Still been going to Social Security.
Correct.
Okay.
It has been accruing to the employees, yes. It's just that this entity is not legally allowed to pay into Social Security. So, but those credits have been accruing, and they will sit there unless the vote is no and you seek a refund. Then you could get up to 3 years back. That's a good question. It's, in some ways it feels so prescribed and necessary, and in other ways it's like, we're kind of happy if you just pay into it, we'll go ahead and accrue it. So, you know, part of me feels like we have to be very specific, and the other part of me feels like sometimes this doesn't even matter at all. I don't know if that is useful from your realm, but that's just my personal experience with this.
Becky, when you're doing the education because it was kind of news to me tonight also. So when you're educating the employees, I think it would be very important to the board's point to point out that if you take those credits, you don't have to take the credits, I guess. So you don't have to look for a refund.
Correct.
If they want to keep those credits for the last 3 years, they can stay in place.
Yes. So for a person to use Social Security when they retire to receive a Social Security benefit, they need to have paid in for 40 credits worth. So a credit is essentially a fourth of the year. You can accrue 4 credits if you work for the full year, so 10 years worth. And then if you have 40 credits worth, then they look at your whole payment time, right? And so if an employee works elsewhere and they get their 40 credits, and then you look at all of the time that they spent at North Summit Fire District and didn't pay in, those months are all zeros. So when they sort of take the calculation of how much the employee made overall, and they like take their highest several years and do this math with it, those zeros will have an impact on the overall benefit that an employee gets from Social Security if they earn credits outside of working at this entity.
So can we use me as an example? I don't mind sharing my numbers. Let's say I've been with Social Security, paying into Social Security for 20 years. If it's a credit per quarter, you're looking at, what would that be, the 80 credits roughly?
Yep, so you will qualify.
Once you hit the retirement age, but it might be less if, for example, whatever that calculation comes out to be. I'm no expert what that would be, obviously, but each individual can meet with their own to see what they're going to get. So we do have a lot of employees because remember, we're kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of employees that we've been able to hire from other places that have not put into Social Security their entire careers. So the guys that came from Ogden, they have not paid in. The guys that came from, who am I missing? UFA or many other fire districts, they've not paid in this whole time. So actually when they came here, they were shocked that they didn't like the idea of having to pay into it. So I think it's going to be, I don't want to say controversial, but I do think that there's a lot of people that want to say no to it, not opt out.
Got it. So I have an odd question. So if you opt out, you get the refund, right? But a certain percentage of that, the district paid into the Social Security. Is it 6.5%, 6.25%? Does the district also get the 6.25% refund?
Yes. So the district would see, and if let's say the number is 100,000 for a year, we'll see the refund of, 50% this year if they say no, and then the last 3 years, whatever that was.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are a variety of choices there. So you could choose to give the full refund amount to the employees and say, we suggest that you put this in your retirement account. You could ask the employees if you could have their portion. And if they sign and say yes, you might take their portion as well. There's a lot of choices that are available if we get that no vote on the referendum that you can pursue.
Okay.
So if by voting no, that would stop anybody that's been getting Social Security so far.
This only applies to those full-time employees that are also receiving retirement, right? But if they have been receiving it up to that point, when the vote is no, that will stop. They won't receive any more credits from their employment with North Summit Fire District.
Correct. And just to add a little nuance to that, a lot of firemen have multiple jobs. If their other part-time jobs are paying into Social Security, they will still get credit for those jobs, correct, Becky?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, if somebody worked at North Summit but had a part-time job somewhere else that's paying into, and North Summit does not pay into Social Security, they could still hit the windfall clause, I believe it's called, and still get enough credits for the year to be able to still get some sort of payment when they hit retirement age.
There was something called the windfall elimination provision, and it was just revoked this year. So that no longer exists.
Oh, thank you for the clarification. But yeah, at least the credits of their part-time jobs would still count towards their credits.
And one other thing is that if the vote is no, then you would need prospective employees to to complete a 1945 form is what it's called. And essentially it just lets them know by working here, you won't be receiving Social Security credit.
Okay.
Which honestly, by the time they're done and educated after the next 3 months, hopefully they understand what that means for their own retirements. Now, I think the only thing I wanted to point out, kind of finalize what we know, maybe Becky has something else, but keep in mind, all fire district employees that are full-time still pay into a retirement system. You're not taking any retirement system away from them necessarily. We still pay into URS. URS is the Utah State Retirement
have-
System.
A better retirement system.
I feel like it is, yeah. And so,
Yes,
it's not like you're taking away all their options.
Good.
Not only that, if the employees did keep that 6.25%, our recommendations to the employees to not be done with that money, but to invest that in the future of their retirement, not to go buy new trucks, not to go do whatever, but to invest in themselves. Now, they have, I mean, they're their own people. They can do with what they want with that money, but that would be our recommendation to our employees, is to invest in their futures. Anything else, Becky?
well, thank you. That's been a learning experience.
Yeah, it is such a strange. So, I watch weird social media because this is something that interests me. But I heard somebody saying this past week, we maybe have seen why Social Security is so important with the volatility of the stock market. I know that my husband has been absolutely terrified watching our retirement go down and up and out. But Social Security, it's sitting where it is. It's not invested into the stock market. So I don't know. For me, that was just like, that might be one reason why folks might want to contribute to Social Security, because maybe it feels a little safer than their other retirement. But of course, that's up to the individual.
Well, that's why I can't understand why we have any vote on May 8th. To me, it doesn't make any sense at all why that is there.
Well, you, just to clarify, and I totally see what you're saying, but don't forget what you're voting on is just to be able to
The
allow
referendum.
them to hold the referendum.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just
But
allow
You
the
don't-
process.
You don't get a say.
No,
neither
but
do I.
but it is a say if you say, no, you can't hold the referendum.
Yeah, and then honestly, I don't know, like Becky,
Yeah,
what.
That's a say.
Right.
Sure.
So why are we doing this? Sorry, that's one of the things that I'm
And
like,
To Becky's
So
point,
we
I think
want
it's.
to empower our
statute
employees.
asking if you're part of the board. Yeah, the executive board, so. We did have a little bit of a nuance there. Becky, do you have anything else?
Don, I've got a couple questions. So you've nuanced and said it's the last thing you're going to say. Several times, so I've been waiting. Becky, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Very informative, great presentation. Do you work for the state or you work for the federal government, right?
I work for the state. I'm with the Department of Government Operations Division of Finance.
Got you. So do we pay this Social Security to the state and then the state remits it to the federal government? Or?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Historically, that has been the case. I think it goes straight to the federal government at this point, but I'm not sure. I can look into that if you'd like.
Okay, so one of the things, the reason this is on our agenda says there was a name error. I assume that when we pay that, it's paid with our EIN, and regardless of what name's on there, it should be associated with that EIN, so there shouldn't be any question as to who the funds came from. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yes. The specificity of the name would especially matter if the referendum vote goes yes, because we're going to be doing a legal
Right.
amendment to the Social Security Act. So we have to make sure that we're being very precise.
Right, but in this point, we're not. And I'm assuming, Chief, that all the payments we're making, not only for Social Security, but for Medicare and for people's withholding are associated with that EIN. Are we, when we file our federal income tax or whatever returns we have to do, 990s, I'm not sure how it works. Are those being done with the correct name? Have they been in the past, or are they going forward?
I'm gonna let Rouser answer that, but just from my understanding, everything's been correct. The question came up in the past because they had heard so many different things, Roger and Chris, when they became part of our board in the last 3 years. They wanted to know the official name, and that's what triggered this event. I think this was just a byproduct of doing some research, basically.
So
The name didn't trigger it though.
and just to be clear, we haven't been paying Social Security to the wrong place under the wrong name. We just didn't have the referendum completed. So we were paying it without people opting in. So we were paying it erroneously.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. And all the individuals who have received this, their accounts have been properly credited.
Yes.
Okay, great. So far, I got it. Thank you for
Yeah, you want that.
I was gonna say, so that's one of the things we have to clarify is our EIN is actually just under North Summit Fire District. So when they opened that in 2008, when they started paying part-time or volunteers a stipend, they just put it under North Summit Fire District, so that is gonna have to be something we'll have to probably rectify.
So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to apply to the federal government to get that changed. And then
Yeah.
you'll have to notify the state. So that Becky,
Well, I think
yeah.
we just need to do some clarification on that. We're gonna need the state's help on what we need to rectify. I don't think we have a good grasp on what we exactly need to do. I think Ryan's gonna have to help us with that one.
You're probably gonna have to contact the federal government and get your determination letter updated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Possibly.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you for coming, Becky. I know it's
Yeah, my
tough to do
pleasure.
things at night. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, Becky.
Thanks, Becky.
You're
All right,
welcome.
we'll let you go. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Yeah.
All right,
I did think I
go
was
ahead.
done. I just wanted to point out a couple things on our PowerPoint. If Tyler, you can pull that up for the board. Becky, you're welcome to stay if you want to listen, but it's up to you.
Okay.
Just kind of going down. I just want to briefly touch on this. It's in your packets. But I just want to touch on the next couple slides. I think you guys understand very clearly the Social Security. I don't need to explain any of that. Keep going till down a little more. Oh, on your packet on page 3, go back to that one. Right there, it says tax rate 6.2. That's an error. It should have said 6.25. I think we just missed the 5. So that is what we pay in. Go down to the next one. No. So this is kind of interesting. So this is how, on this slide, the challenges facing Social Security is it benefits the aging population, the trust fund depletion, and the solutions proposed. And then the next slide is really the interesting part. For the fire service specific challenges, and we talk a lot about this on the state chiefs level, et cetera, is the average American lifespan is 77.43 years, but an average firefighter lifespan is less, 15 years. So the meaning of that basically is just saying that we may not even be able to pull from Social Security because we don't live to 77. So there's a lot of firefighters that start getting caught up in this kind of thing. And I think that could affect some of their vote too. And these are averages, of course, but we had a couple of our captains who built this slide, and these are some of the things that they wanted to point out. And then really that's the only thing that I thought was quite interesting that you guys probably don't already know, but please go ahead and look at those slides in your packet throughout the month too, if you'd like to understand it a little bit better. But that was the biggest eye opener to me is if they never hit the age where they can start pulling Social Security, then they feel like, why should they keep paying into something they're never going to see as a firefighter specific?
Why is the lifespan like that? And if so, why are you still doing it?
It's a great question. I don't have an answer.
I mean, that's, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's just firemen don't live as long as a normal person, and there's a lot of reasons we could get into. I don't know if we have enough time.
No, it's okay, just a thought. It was,
Yeah, we don't live as long. And we
Social Security is also available to your spouse and your minor children. So to use that number alone, I think would maybe be a little,
Yeah, it's just an interesting point, I thought.
That is an interesting point, but yeah. But the Utah, I will say the Utah's retirement system is better. It's a better deal.
Yeah, for sure. And we don't plan to, we have to have something, so we don't ever plan to leave the URS, so.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm with Louise. That's a pretty shocking number.
yeah,
But All right, if we're done with that, do we have any, can we open up for public comments?
Yeah, nobody's on for public comment. Online at least.
Was there a accounts payable?
Present.
Oh, sorry. I saw.
All right, so we don't have any hands raised. We don't have anybody there. Nobody here in the building with us, so we're gonna move on. Let's move to the consent items. So consent agenda. We have the two items there. I'd like to open it up to the board, and if there's any comments on those, any of those items, let's do it, and then have our motion whether we accept them. So
I have a general question.
go ahead, Ari.
So I noticed very good job on the minutes. I like the new format, by the way. But I did notice that when we vote and pass something, that it just says that it passed. It doesn't really say who voted for what or what it passed as. It just says carried. So Tyler, I guess my question to you is, what are the requirements with the state as to reporting in the minutes? And then if the particular item requires roll call, does that need to be reflected in the minutes?
So that, I can go to fix that. That was an error. I didn't realize it. You have to hit a separate copy for your.
Huh?
You don't have- Are you looking at an older
I only thought there was one.
agenda item?
Reports in it. So yeah, I'll go ahead and change
I
that.
thought there was one.
I'm seeing the minutes right underneath.
Is it,
Yeah, and I'm not hearing what you're saying. I'm hearing the conversation with.
Sorry, your conversation.
Sorry.
oh, sorry, I'm just looking for them.
Come look at your screen because I can't get mine.
So I was just saying, I just have to hit another button to say to post it on there and I missed that this time. So I'll, it should show who voted for which. If they voted for or against, the measure. So
So Chair Donaldson, I would recommend that we wait and pass these in our next meeting when we can verify that the votes are recorded properly here.
And I don't see any at all on any of my links. I have no minutes.
So sorry, I sent out a second email.
It was on, yeah, the one. we
Oh, I
just
thought
got
I-
today.
I thought I just downloaded that one tonight, so.
Scroll down with that.
Yeah, and then.
Okay, I like that.
One more thing. I sent that out and 5 minutes later, Ryan sent me the signed ILA, so I didn't have that added in there yet. So
Okay.
if you do want to adopt them, right, that'll
Okay.
be added into the final list.
All right, I need a motion for that. I agree with that. I think we should do that and then make a motion once we have that full documentation for
So
that.
Chair, just for clarification, you want to wait?
We want to table these items until next meeting.
Mhm.
Perfect.
I don't think we need to vote on that, do we?
We have everybody was that low, anyway?
Last month.
Yeah, we did. Didn't we?
One meeting had only 3 here and then 5 was here for the second meeting, so.
Well, the special meeting, we were
Everybody
all
was
here.
Yeah.
First one. not
And then the-
one.
Yeah, the March one wasn't, but
Yeah, it's not showing up there either.
I believe you'll need a motion to table.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion to
yeah,
table
okay.
the consent calendar.
We just, the chair can just table it.
Okay.
Okay, then we're gonna table it, if I can table it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, let's go to accounts payable.
I can do
Board members, those of you that reviewed it.
Yeah.
Comments? Clarifications needed.
it. See anything that confused me or? I know how much a rock chip repair is now, though.
Yeah, no,
I just got one fixed, so.
That time of year.
What does the Elite Rescue software do? That name just captured me.
Image trend software that does all of our reporting.
Okay,
so anytime they go out on a medical, they have to come back and do a report, and how we track everything is through Elite image trend Elite. So that's what that is.
but I don't see anything that's the concern.
All right, well then, if we don't have any objections or we don't have any more clarification, I need a motion to approve consent agenda item accounts payable. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda item accounts payable for March 2025.
A second.
okay. And we don't need to vote on that on a consent item, right?
So you can
So,
just be an everybody vote. Doesn't have to be around.
so those in favor of the motion to, for, approve consent agenda item for the accounts payable for February 2025, say aye.
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 February or
March.
March, it's March.
It's a March?
Yes.
Nope, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
25.
All right, for March 2025.
Aye.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion passes. All right. Goodness gracious, look what we're down to.
1 hour.
Woo!
I need a motion.
You made a good decision, Ari. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay,
Meeting adjourned. Voila.
now you figure out how much you saved.